what has happened to black folks could not happen without the church's assent. So we need to take a look at that and how we can undo that, because if we read the Bible honestly, there is but one race, and that is the human race. And anything else that we see is a diversion from what God intended it to be. And if you believe that the pigmentation of your skin makes you superior, it's hard to believe that and consider yourself a Christian, because it mitigates against what the Word of God says. Yeah, and you're right, it should be hard, but in this country, I would venture to say that if you are born in this country, if you're cultured in this country, if you are benefiting in this country, and you are white, it's hard to not be racist, because everything in society mitigates against your desire. You have to work at being not racist. And the only way you get there is to recognize it and then become anti-racist. And you work in order to come to that point. But there's no real neutral ground. It's like breathing air. I don't know if the steel mill that we presently have is better than the one that I remember 35 years ago when I came to this town. But 35 years ago when I was here, there was a company called Armco.
Are you ready for me to turn this on?
That ain't on. I've been doing all this talking and that ain't on. Turn it on. Bible study is almost done and the camera now.
He did not give me the point.
You're right.
Okay, here we go. Right. 3. Oops, hold on. Lord Jesus, help me. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
How good the Lord is. Give the Lord a hand tonight. And it's good for you all to be here, who are present in the room. And for those of you who are watching virtually or seeing this in a delayed fashion even, I want you to know that Bible study was really good tonight. The Lord moved by his power divine. The word was spoken with power. And you missed because the camera was off. Because the pastor failed to say, cut the camera on. So we'll catch y'all next week. No, I'm just kidding. We got some more left. We're talking tonight about racism because it's Black History Month. And we are primarily an African American church. And it is in part our assignment to give dignity and to give self-worth to a community for 400 years almost has been denied that. So historically it has been the Black church that has and today is that incubator where our people find solace and find salvation, but it's not just personal salvation. We critique sin in every domain where it exists. So it's not just the Lord saving you from drinking, smoking, chewing, and doing the things that other folks do. Sin is also found institutionally, and that kind of sin is as destructive as the stuff on your list when you have a sanctified list of stuff folks ought not do because they have Christ in their life and they're quote-unquote saved. I said before the camera was on, and I say it again, maybe slightly differently, because I'm getting old and can't remember some stuff. But in essence, what I said is, it is difficult, nearly impossible, to be born in this country, to be a part of the privileged community, and that community teaches, have taught, and believe by virtue of pigmentation that they are superior and people of color are inferior to them. You cannot grow up in that kind of America and take advantage of all the privileges and not be contaminated by the sin. Let me try it this way. 35 years ago, when I was in this city, there was a steel company here that was prominent. And the name of that company then was Armco Steel. I don't know if there's an Armco Steel anywhere else in the country. I just know what was here 35 years ago. And mighty strange that my children who were born here were born with some difficulties in terms of their breathing. Okay? Now, I've not done any testing, and I guess I can't sue anybody because that was a long time ago, and the company is now defunct. I don't think it was unique to Armco Steel. I think if you live in a manufacturing environment where coal is being burned and stacks are blowing dirt and pollutants in the air, and you breathe it in, you get sick. I think brownfields is what they call it in the ecological environment, that the atmosphere is filled with pollutants, and if you drink, inhale, or breathe those contaminants, don't be surprised when you end up with things like bronchitis, asthma. Are you here? Yeah. And those other things that come from ingesting and inhaling that which is contaminant. But there's another contaminant called racism in America. And just like you breathe in and breathe out, it affects you even when you're not aware of it. And then you get enough of that in you, and you end up dying before time. Are you all here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That is kind of what happens in another dimension regarding this whole issue of racism. You end up thinking that you're better than somebody else based on skin pigmentation. So if you have white skin and Aryan features, you are an American. And if your hair is kinky and your accent is different, you deserve to be deported because you don't look like an American is whatever that is supposed to look like. except if we consider South America, Central America, North America. All of those people were people with pigmentation and color. And the folks who didn't have it came here and stole some stuff. And took some stuff. And now those very same people are defining what a native is. Are you here? So it is the black church that has to stand up and say, not so. Because the Southern Baptist Convention won't do it. Huh? Catholic Church, by and large, in their diocese, historically, hadn't done it, won't do it. It is that invisible institution, the black church, that has historically been the vanguard of black dignity and intelligence, and said, I'm a child of God, and God loves me and made me who I am, and like I am, and that is to be celebrated. So for us, that's as much a part of salvation as accepting Jesus as Savior. Okay, so we've done that. We've done the historical work. We've done the biblical work. We've done the ecclesiastical work. We've done that over the weeks, and we near about done. I can't see us going further than next week with that, and then we'll go a different direction. I want to read something, and I want you to hear what I'm reading. I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of white and black races. I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurists of Negroes, not qualifying them to hold office. I will say, in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will ever forbid these two races from living together on terms of social and political equality. And inasmuch as they cannot so live, while they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. And I, as much as any other man, am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. That's what I wanted to read to you. Anybody in here know who uttered those words? Okay. Do those words need any interpretation? Or did you hear them and understand them? Because I can interpret it in shorthand if necessary. Okay, I guess most of y'all heard it and you understand what you heard. The person who uttered these words is the one you all give credit for freeing the slaves. Yeah, that's them calling, telling me to shut up. And somebody calling, telling him to stop that. The person who penned those words is President Abraham Lincoln. Those sound like words of somebody who's convinced that all men are created equally and in certainly with certain inalienable rights. Does that sound like somebody who? All right.
I think when he was writing the Emancipation Proclamation, it wasn't a humanitarian move.
Mm-hmm.
It was a strategic move to win the war.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a hero. He was a strategist.
Mm-hmm.
And then how many presidents? I mean, even when you looked at the states that wanted to get out of the Union, you went north, there was still slavery.
Yes.
How many presidents owned slaves?
All of them.
Did. Yeah. So it's kind of, we put a hero concept on him. It wasn't humanitarian, it was very strategic. He was trying to win a war.
And history over time, history, if you can erase it and reframe it and disconnect from it, you hope for a better outcome. Except the problem is restitution is never made. And you have to explain why the haves have and why the have-nots don't. And what's ending up happening is folks will make statements like, well, the difference is obvious. The problem is there's something inherent about the black race that makes them less competent and capable of doing stuff. This was done by white men. You do know that white men are more capable and intelligent and powerful and industrious. You do know that. So they ought to be in charge. And these other folks, they don't have the gray matter in order to do it. So they have to work at a lower level and different kinds of jobs. And then the church promotes and establishes this. And then we wonder why it is we end up with division. And it is because every sector of society is committed to the lie. To the lie. So it's perpetuated. And everywhere you go, you run into it. And that's exactly why black churches have to stand up and say, you may not hear the truth in school. We should have been taught this as well as, yes, eventually the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. But he didn't do that because the Lord spoke to him in prayer and told him what the country was doing was wrong. He did it as a deal in order to try to keep these colonies and this country together. All right? So I just throw that out because I think that's a small example of the kinds of things that's hidden in history. And if we don't know our history, we come up with all kind of erroneous conclusions about who they are and about who we are. Because racist is religion. Racism is religion. And it is at its root idolatry. It is worshiping one's ethnicity, one's color. And seem to me, if you worship anything other than God, that thing has become your God.
Yeah.
Is how I kind of read the Bible. So we have an obligation to say, no sir, no ma'am, that's not how God made us, and that's not a position we're willing to accept. And then here's the reasons why. There are three levels of racism. There is individual racism. Here's how individual racism. I just don't like them. They stay over there with their kind, we stay over here with we kind, we got an understanding, and I just don't like them. My mammy, my pappy, they all taught me they're not to be trusted. They steal, they lie, and they'll kill. So I'm going to get them, buddy, before they get me. All right? I say this because it's true. I have encountered more racism in Ohio than in Texas. I have lived in Ohio and I have lived in Texas. And racism here is worse than there. I have encountered in Ohio than North, because I have lived in North Carolina, and I encountered more racism in Ohio than Georgia. Ohio. Individual racism. That's one fellow's or gal's experience or opinion about somebody else who's subordinate to them, not on their level, inferior to them because of pigmentation, color. Yes, ma'am.
Question about individual.
Individual racism?
Yes.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
Do you think that it's taught in the family?
Absolutely.
That's what I think.
Absolutely. I believe it is absolutely taught. Now, if you teach it for hundreds and hundreds of years, the folk who are guilty of it, they don't always know that they've been impacted or affected by it. But the folk who's been on the underside of the treatment develop both a conscious and an unconscious reality of it. How does that look? I can enter a place and very quickly size up whether or not that's going to be a comfortable environment for me to be in as a black man. There's a sense that you have that, uh-oh, I've come to the wrong gas station. I've come to the wrong restaurant. Let me get my Snickers in my juice as quickly as I can and get out of here. Because this is not a safe environment for me.
And it's also getting to the point where we as Black women feel the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've had, I know I had those experiences where I felt like, let me get my slippers in.
Yeah.
And leave.
Yeah, and it's not paranoia, but there's a sense. You can't run from dogs and trappers and that sort of thing for generations and not develop some keen sense. You go out to the wild. You go out there. I don't do a whole lot of that because I don't like the wild. But there's something about animals and humans. The animal is going to do everything in his power, pretty much, to stay away from humans. What is it? Instinct. Or is it intelligence? What do you call it? I don't know. Call it what you will. But something about being hunted and shot at develop within them a sense of I've got to stay away in order to be protected from this. Thank God has given us that too. It's a sense that we have about. Yes, sir.
When you speak of individual racism, as you mentioned, you lived in Georgia, so have I.
Okay.
And I would say in Georgia, I've experienced more racism in Georgia than I have in Ohio.
Okay.
I was in the Air Force lived in Warner Robins, Georgia. Just down from Warner Robins was period.
Okay. Were you in the military down there, son?
I was.
Okay.
Period.
All right.
So there was a high school that they recently had integrated prom past 2000s. I was shocked, and I lived 10 miles away from it.
Yeah.
When I used to venture out and hang out in Georgia,
Yeah.
there was plenty of spots you didn't have to go to, they could tell you. And I will say this, not to disrespect the people that are color, or Black Americans in the South. There's a different type of way that you move down there than you move up here.
Yeah.
Down there, it was kind of not necessarily subservient, you've been challenged. And I got myself into some situations down there because you weren't going to talk to me.
You didn't know the rules.
Exactly. So,
You didn't know the rules.
so sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But like I said, I guess you could say when you move back through there.
Yeah.
But I was an MP, I was a police officer. I couldn't become one out there because I knew certain police places. I go to because they don't want Black folks.
Well, I have to probably modify my statement and tell you where in Georgia I was. I was in Atlanta. So there's a difference in the dynamic when you're in like the Atlanta metropolitan Atlanta area. Yeah. Clayton County and Henry County. So because a whole lot of my cousins were there, I mean a whole lot of Black folk were in the area. You roll a little differently in that area, and you learn because of the diversity. If you're not Black, how to get along in that context.
Absolutely. Because Forsyth is probably one of the most racist places down there.
Forsyth County?
Exactly. And I didn't live too far away from there, and I knew when I was hanging out at night, not to get pulled over in Forsyth.
Yeah.
Even if I was in the military.
That's true.
You may not.
Yeah.
It'll be found.
Yeah, that's true. So you're exactly right. There are some places in Georgia where that's probably not fully true, what I said. All right? But I want you to think that down south and up south, they're not too different from one another because superiority and inferiority is learned and taught and is ubiquitous, which means it's everywhere. Okay? So individual racism. Then there is what is called institutional racism. Institutional racism. How do you think institutional racism looks here? Or can you think of some examples of institutional racism that needed to be handled? Yes?
Schools.
Okay? Schools would be an example of where institutional racism exists. Now, help us by telling us historically what that looked like.
Well, there was a time when black students couldn't go to certain colleges,
Okay?
and that in the time when we broke the collar and one of the girls decided to go to a black girl go to all-white college, she almost had to be escorted into the school.
Yes.
And so, yes, there's schools, and then you learn there's hospitals.
Okay?
A doctor almost had created in Black history a hospital because the black patients or black people were not being treated fair going to some of the other hospitals.
Yeah, you would die. You would die if you got sick in certain areas because they weren't going to treat you if you were black, because they weren't going to put their tools, scalpels, and that sort of thing on a body of somebody black, because that body is different than a white body. So plenty of folk died because they couldn't get to the place of treatment where there was a black doctor who could, handle or manage whatever their situation. That's an example of institutional racism and how it impacts black people. What about financial institutions? Can you remember? Yeah, somebody here who is in the banking industry. Let me ask you a question. Redlining. Does that mean anything to you?
Yes.
Can you tell me historically what redlining looked like in the banking institution?
So, redlining is certain areas of a town or state where the financial institutions would not lend. So, as African Americans, we were forced to live in certain neighborhoods, and other neighborhoods we weren't able really to move in there. The interest rate might be higher. The guidelines to get a mortgage were just different from other people, non-black people. They were able to get mortgage loans more than we could. And now the financial institution that I still work for, we had training every year about not using discriminatory practices in banking and in mortgages. But it's a shame that laws had to be passed to make sure that we could live where we wanted to live. And quiet as it's kept, I'm sure that there are still some financial institutions that low-key try to go around that.
And let me ask you this, because we can do a whole research that I think would bear out the fact that owning a house is one of the ways that wealth is both accumulated and passed on from one generation to the next. So, yes, ma'am.
I just thought about something. I remember my parents telling us that when they came from the South, that there were certain neighborhoods in Dayton, and Cynthia and Olivia probably remember this, where blacks couldn't live.
Yeah.
So like the soda baths, back in the day, it was not a project in the beginning.
Yeah.
That was only one of the communities that blacks could live in. And so they knew where not to go. And who to associate with, what stores to go to, that kind of thing.
All right, that's institutional racism. So if you're black and we discover you're black, even though you might have, a name, may not be Smith or Johnson or Jones, but you got a name like Ballard, assume stuff. When you walked in to do business, they saw all they needed to see. And now all of a sudden, ain't no money available for you. And then you say, well, I got a job. Well, okay, but still ain't no money available to you. Well, they trusted me, and I got a little car from General Motors. I, got a little credit history. You don't have enough history. Boy, do you have a sign-up. Anybody gonna vouch for you? And then whatever the excuse was, you left there without a loan to get a home. That's kind of what institutional racism looked like. Yes?
We're about to also look that way in the employment area. Before I joined the Air Force, I was a tent at Advanced Father Pools.
You were what now?
A tent at Advanced Father Pools.
Okay, got you. Temp at,
So they used to deliver hot tubs.
okay.
In certain areas, I would be in two of the white guys, younger guys, who saw the work. But there were some places they wouldn't let me do certain things because I was black, and I kind of figured it out later on. And as time progressed, I started to see things, even though I was in the military. And then when I came back, I was a contract box truck driver.
Okay.
I was only black for 12 and a half years that drove me.
Yes, sir.
So I see it there, and I also see it within places other than the one that I had when I worked at Allside.
Yes. The military. I heard you say you were in the military.
Yes, sir.
Is there a history of institutional racism like
Yes.
the Tuskegee?
Yes.
Come on, y'all talk to me. Y'all remember anything about them? How did they become famous? They became famous because they were good,
Yes.
but they became famous also because they were excluded
Right.
and weren't allowed on the track and to do things that white enlistees could do. Institutional racism.
They were directed towards being cooks and
Yeah.
cleaners and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So now they got to fly, go in danger zones, and do the impossible in order to be included. And they did. Because we excel no matter where we show up. Because we understand that you have to be twice as good to go half as far. Because this works against you. And you've got to mitigate against it. Any other examples of institutional racism? We said, did anybody say that it existed like at the church? Let me just kind of help you. There was a fella by the name of Richard Allen and a fella by the name of Absalom Jones who went into a church to pray. And while they were trying to get close to Jesus and have a little talk with him, they were ushered out of the church. And as a result of them being ushered out of the church, one started what is the black wing of the Anglican Church, Absalom Jones, and the other one started what is called the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the AME Church, because they couldn't pray in white churches because they were black and not allowed. So whenever folks tell you there ain't but one church, you got to say, hold on here. There should have only been one, but y'all wouldn't let us talk to white Jesus. So we had to start one so we could go. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. If they were allowed to come, they weren't allowed to come to the main. They had to go to what was called the Nikolov, which was up in the balcony.
Same thing with the movie theaters.
Yeah, movie theaters. So here's the point. Institutional racism impacted every institution that existed. So black life was subjugated in every place. And that's how it is. We end up with, land grant schools, colleges and universities that were basically started to educate preachers and produce educators for the classrooms. Is how you got most of your black schools. And white folks didn't want you at Ohio State because that wasn't made for you. So y'all can go to Wilberforce, which is the private school, or you can go across the street to the state school, but stay out of our school. Institutional racism is how that happened. Yes, ma'am.
I've experienced individual racism in the classroom when kids come in, a couple of kids come in and they go, Isabella, I love you, but my parents say that you're the N-word.
Yeah.
And I don't have to listen to you. So that's when I have to have a conflict, because if they don't partner with me, be out.
Okay, so would you, now, let me clarify, since she gave her name.
What?
You gave your name, or somebody said Sister Ballard.
Well, I
So,
said this is-
oh, well, Mrs. Ballard. All right, that's okay. I just want to clarify. This didn't happen in the Middletown City schools. She's taught in lots of schools all around the country. So she need her job. So now y'all gonna take her job. We got bills to pay. So let me clarify. The Middletown City schools are wonderful schools where everybody is sweet and nice. All right. I just want to lay that out. But yes, if there is an institution, the institution reflects what the individual does. It's just the collective. So it's quantified by law. So the institutions carry out the same kind of racism. Okay? And maybe I should just ask y'all to explain to me when I say racism, what am I actually trying to define? And here's a short definition. Racism is prejudice and power that's used for some and against others. Now, you can have bad attitude against people from whatever race and in your race, but it becomes racism when you have the power to pull off your prejudices. Just being prejudiced in and of itself is not enough to qualify as a racist. You need prejudice plus power to have it. Hear the difference? Black folks have opinions, but we don't have much power.
We don't tap into it.
All right. However you want to say it. So when they say this is reverse racism, we say, well, we might have prejudices against you based on our experience with you, but we don't have institutional powers to pull off anything other than having a bad attitude. But you have power because your institutions allow you to carry out the activity. So I just want to throw that in. So you got individual, institution, and then you have cultural. And I wish I had time because I talk about how that looks within our community. But I ain't got but 5 minutes left, so I ain't gonna have time to do that. But What does cultural racism look like to you?
I don't know if this looks like it, but my granny had to tell me what the service interest was for black people.
Okay.
I was determined I wasn't allowed to come into the front of the house. I had to use the service door.
Okay.
The service door. And so my granny said, well, that's technically for black folks to come in here, live in the building, do whatever else. You're not coming to the front of the house.
Yeah.
Or you have a side entrance. So I did experience that too as well, but I don't know if that would be considered cultural.
Okay. I think that would still be probably institutional and individual. It's a combination of the two. But cultural racism is what happens when the standard of, say, beauty is established by the dominant culture. So y'all know where I'm going with this, right? Cultural racism. Cultural racism says our ice is colder. Our sugar is sweeter. Beauty is more desirable when it looks like us. Straight hair, blonde hair, blue eyes, brunettes or whatever, all of that. Slender nose, anorexic bodies. Are you here? Those kinds of things become the standard by which beauty is judged and decided. Come here, Ambien. Do they still sell that? When I was a little boy, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, they had some stuff called, I believe it was an Ambien or something. Yeah, Magnolia. It was a lightning cream that folk that were really black like me were encouraged to use because you too black. Come on out that sun. Boy, get a hat on or something. You getting blacker and blacker the more you get, which means you're getting worse and worse. Because the standard is not blacker and blacker, but whiter and whiter. Come here, sororities. If you're darker than that bag, you're not getting in our sorority. Are you here? Fraternities. Why? Because there is a cultural racism that says the closer you are to this, the better off you are. Come here. You're the master's daughter. So you get to come work in the house. You go to the field, creating a hierarchy of what blacks are more acceptable and which ones are not. And guess what? They did it so good until they don't have to be nowhere around because we maintain it and believe it too. Oh, she's so cute. Look at that hair. She's got curly hair. Oh, look at her. What are we actually saying?
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. But it's because we have inculcated that whole sense and we've turned against ourselves. And that's why it is. We have what the Spike Lee called them, the jigaboos. What was it? Do the right thing?
Yeah.
He had two groups. School days. That's exactly right. Yeah. School Days was the movie where he portrayed that in a real way. That's cultural racism. fight all of that if you're going to bring some sense of reality and sanity to the black mind, which is why the black church has been successful. My concern is if folk aren't coming to us anymore, why are they going to learn this stuff about themselves when the museums are being closed, when the history is being erased, when folk are saying don't teach that because little Karen is coming home all upset because she's learning stuff that we haven't exposed her to. And you protect the psyche of little Karen, but don't care about KK. It is the church that's got to stand up and say, this is as important to us as accepting Jesus as Savior. And especially during this era in which we live, which is unlike any other that I've seen in my life. So, I would say to you, as I get ready to end this, it's a long road and it's wearying to be on it. In my life, I have been separate and unequal. I have been hopeful and have personally, I grew up in a city that was called the International City because we had all kinds of ethnics in the city of Lorraine where I was born. But my street was primarily a black street in that city. The school was somewhat integrated, but the one that I ended up going to so I could graduate was the black school in town. Because I wasn't at peace in the white school and I was spending more time suspended than in the classroom. So in order to have a future, I ended up going over to my community with my people. And I made it, in the words of Harvey. I made it. I wonder about our people. If we don't have a strong institution to counterbalance the lie, what will we do? What will we do? Any closing comments or questions?
Another question, I guess, in the weight of it all.
Yeah.
Like in Ecclesiastes, it talks about to know more is to know sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start gaining more and more understanding of how this fits and how this impacts us, individuals, as a community, as, the world.
Yes.
It is so heavy. And it's kind of like, how do you get up and go on the next day?
And that's why I was leaving.
How do you go out and
Yeah.
treat people the way we've been taught at home,
Yeah.
that you're kind to people or you're respectful of people.
Yeah.
And yet, when you know someone's looking at you like you're not even worth the air
Yeah.
that you breathe.
Yeah.
How do you keep navigating that?
It's tough. It's heavy. It's a burden. It's a burden you shouldn't have to carry, but it's one that you must carry. As I was saying, as I was making my way towards the close, I have joined intentionally organizations to try to have relationships and to learn from and educate those who are not black. I have done that. I wish I could tell you that at almost 65 now, I wish I could tell you that things are better now and I'm more hopeful now than I was when I was a youngster. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not. I'm discouraged too. But I can't let my hope die. I cannot let my hope die. And that's what Jesus gives us. That's what Christianity at its best, what it offers, is you. You get a hope that surpasses death and the grave. That things will get better. They can get better. You gotta keep holding on. And you don't fight for just this day. You fight for the day to come. Is what I say. We could open up a whole nother discussion and talk about, macro and micro aggressions. Subtle and not so subtle ways that we're impacted by this. Folks, sometimes giving a compliment. Oh, Brother Greg, we'd have no problems if everyone just thought like you. Really? You tell my wife that. Tell my mama that. Tell me the folk who know me well. Tell them that. Because the reality, I ain't special. In that regard, I'm not some special kind of a black person. Because, I have some degree of intelligence. That's most of us. With degrees and without them. Not the only one who have values. That's typical of us. I'm not the only one who loves. That's most of us. You've been watching Fox News too much if you come to the conclusion. Otherwise, you don't know who we are. And we can't be okay with being the token. We gotta help those who don't know us to see that there are a whole lot of others who are just like us, who want to be respected just like they want it and have it. And we've got to fight for it. So we can't spend all our time, fighting ourselves and then trying to convince other folks of who we are. Okay? Any other questions or comments?
I have one, but I'm trying to figure out how to word it, but when you think about those three different levels, is there one, or is it two, or is it all of them, where we can penetrate, try to begin to penetrate and make the most impact?
Great question.
Does that make sense?
Great question. Where would you attack? Individual, institution, or culture? Where could you tomorrow have the most impact or influence? I'm tempted to say individual. Is what I'm tempted to say. Because if you're able to develop relationship on a one-to-one basis with somebody else and see them as a human being, if you start there, then you can go at undoing or deconstructing the institutional racism and the cultural racism. But I don't know. I mean, you got to fight all three dimensions at the same time. I don't know that if it would work by just going after one. Because if you're focusing on the individual relationship, but when they get together, they have a clannish kind of mentality. Because it's amazing how empowered they feel when they get back up. You know, if it's you by yourself and you're walking down the corridor on the job, they might even part their lips and say hello to you. But when 3 or 4 of them get together, now all of a sudden, you're invisible and can't none of them see you. And they don't invite you to play in any reindeer game. Are you here? And they treat you like you're Rudolph with a red nose. Are you here? So then the individual relationship had translated. It'd be wonderful if when they got with Karen and them, all of them say, come on over here and sit at our table. Or we'll come sit at your table. But that usually don't happen. How many times have you been the only one and treated like you've got horns coming, you know, at the top of your head and a tail on the back of your back? That's institutional. So, good question. I guess you start where you are at the individual level and then try and work those other quadrants.
I do want to say something, but I will wait to that song.
All right. Anybody want to say anything? Because we're going to cut this off so you can say what you will.
I think the biggest thing is covert racism.
Uh-huh.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We can get away with this hat.
Yeah.
It's too much of it. It's on every level.
Yeah. I'm somebody who enjoys sports, particularly basketball, you know, and football and that sort of thing. If we're given a chance, we excel everywhere, including the boardroom. We got to get there. Can't be enough to catch the ball, throw the ball. We got to be in the room to decide where we're going to put the ballpark and who get teams and who get that money. Oh, he made $200 million. He got a 5-year contract, $200 million. They couldn't give him $200 million unless they were taking home $1 trillion. So don't get mad with the fellow who running the ball and ask him what he doing. Keep climbing and ask the owners what y'all doing. We ain't giving you all kind of abatements and you're taking city money and state money and then we can't get no jobs. Well, let me not say that. I'm in the church house. My lips almost slipped. All right, I'm in the church house. Cut that off.